Part of our commitment to putting Southeast Texas first means getting answers to your legal questions. On Wednesday afternoons, we get to ask the judge. And this afternoon, we are joined by Judge Randy Shelton from the 279th District Court in Jefferson County. Judge, we get to say welcome to 12 News and welcome to Ask the Judge.
Hi, Jordan. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you making time for us. A couple of interesting questions. This first one comes from a frustrated renter. He says, sometimes I come home to my apartment and it feels like the maintenance people have been inside. My stuff isn't where I left it. What's allowed? Under what circumstances can they enter without permission?
Well, Jordan, tenants have the right to the exclusive use of an apartment. Now, the exclusive use is subject to the right of a landlord to enter the premises at reasonable times to make reasonable repairs and maintenance. These rights are usually set out in the lease agreement, so we should always take a look at that. So what that means is if while you're gone to work during the day, weekday rather, if the apartment complex comes in maybe to change an air conditioner filter or fix a toilet that's running, that's probably perfectly within the right of the apartment complex. However, coming in at the middle of the night and going through your underwear drawer, that's probably crossing the line.
Oh, Judge. So if they show up during the day, I mean, do they have to tell you? I think that's maybe part of this question as well.
They obviously they have to knock. I think a lot of, again, it depends on the lease agreement, but a lot of times I've noticed that apartment complexes will just leave a post-it note on the door to let the tenant know that they've been in and that they have done some repairs.
Makes sense, makes sense. All right, this second question, this person says, I have a friend who was walking and got hit by a car. The driver was in a company truck and she didn't have permission to operate it. So she convinced the victim not to call the cops. No police report was filed. What should the victim do now? He wants help with medical bills.
Well, first of all, if there is an auto accident with injuries, you're required to report it to the police. Even though that hasn't been done, it's probably still not too late to do that. If there isn't any insurance, and that may mean because the insurance company isn't going to cover an accident involving a driver that wasn't authorized to use the vehicle, then the driver can lose his or her driver's license. Now, as a condition to regaining that license, there is a procedure to require the payment of restitution to an injured party before the license is reinstated. It's a little bit of a tricky procedure, and you may need some help with that, maybe from an attorney.
Yeah, but first step would be to try to file that police report even after the fact. Okay, this final question, how does one proceed when they have won a judgment for damages and the other party still refuses to pay?
That's a pretty interesting area too. The procedure is a little complicated, but let me try to simplify it a bit. To collect a judgment, there is a procedure in which you can make a request to a constable to seize a debtor's property to satisfy the judgment. The person trying to collect the debt, though, must identify property that is not exempt under Texas law. After seizing the property, the constable would hold an auction. After the auction, the constable would get his fees off the top. The person owed the judgment would get the amount of the judgment if there's enough money to cover the judgment, plus interest and some other fees. And if there is anything left over, that money goes back to the debtor. You would probably need an attorney to help you out on this. The exempt property law does make it difficult to collect from anyone other than a business or a millionaire or something.
Judge, we'll have to leave it there. We really appreciate you making time for us, and welcome to Ask the Judge.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Judge. And if you have questions for our Ask the Judge, just go to 12newsnow.com/askthejudge, and there's a form to fill out right there.